Hey everyone, welcome to the part 2 of my password generation program using Python, where I'll be showing you guys how to create this password GUI graphics based program using Tkinter of Python. Okay, so what we've created in the first video is we simply created a text based program which creates a certain password and asks the user to run the length of the password. And if you haven't seen that program, please check that video out, because that is the first part of a program, and it's like that's the main purpose on why we are creating this project. So you should check this video, the project out. So now let's get back to the creation of the GUI graphics based. Okay, so all about consist about. Let's check that out. First thing is it's a window by certain ratio. Okay, so we'll check out that ratio later. So it's a certain ratio. Then it's got in it a variable which stores a string that is called as a label. Then it's got certain, you see this black line, the line is known as frame. Then it's got another label with storing information. Then it's got entry boxes to type down anything, and it's got entry boxes to type down your input. And then it's got buttons here. It's got these two buttons. Okay, so it's got these buttons, and it's got of course minimization, maximization, and close button. Okay, so let's create that without further wasting any time. Okay, so first thing is what we'll be needing, the most important is importing our Tkinter module. Okay, so let me just import Tkinter. So if you haven't don't know anything about Tkinter, I'll just open the manual for you guys. Just give me a while, and I'll just type down Tkinter, and here it's the first thing that opens. Okay, so this is Tkinter. It's a small package, basic package in Python that provides GUI toolkit, and they've got certain resources in the in documentation which explains everything regarding Tkinter, why you should use Tkinter, then its functions, etc., etc. For today's video, you do not need to worry about the documentation, since I'm going to explain every single aspect of Tkinter that I'm going to use in this project. But there are many things that I'm not going to use, certain functions that you must check out from the documentation. Okay, so first thing is what we will do is we will import it from Tkinter from Tkinter import star. So basically I'm importing all the aspects of Tkinter. Then what I'm going to do is from Tkinter import message box. So this message box, you may think what it is about. Don't worry, I'm going to explain you this later in the video. So just for the time, you could just note it down. Now in Tkinter, we have got a method which creates the object, which initializes it. So how do we create that? We create it with a variable, usually name it as root, and we call it as tk. You see, even if you see over here, everywhere it's called as tk. So this is a short form of Tkinter. So you need to type root is equal to the capital Tk and open parenthesis and close parenthesis. Then now let's run this program and check out what happens. I opened the wrong program. Okay, so nothing, it shows no error. See, it shows your process finished with exit code, but nothing shows, because the thing is, what happens in Tkinter is we need to create a loop in Tkinter that the window always opens up and shows. So what happened is, before the window opened, but it opened within a millisecond and closed, so we could not see it by a human eye. So what we need to create a main loop which keeps on running the window, and with that we'll be able to see our window. Okay, so that's it. We have got a simple window which basically provides nothing, no information. It just says Tkinter. It's got a minimization, maximization box. So for that, now we need to do certain customizations which are pretty simple. So first thing is we'll create a geometry for this. So what I'll do is root.geometry. In that I will provide the geometry for this. So for this program, I've taken a simple geometry of 600 by 200. So that is 600 width by 200 height. Yeah, let me just check that out if I yeah, okay, so that's it. 600 by 200 width, that's the first part. Now we will change the background of the image, so we will change it to yellow. You guys can change it to whatever color you want. Just type down root.config, so it's configuring the background, and say bg is equal to your background color, so that is yellow. Okay, yellow, I made it yellow. You can make it anything whatever you want. So I got the background, and let's say you want to check out some other type of background, so you can just type black and run it, so you get this black, but I am not interested in black background. Okay, so that's it. Now we've got to create a title. Okay, so what we will do is root.title, and now let's just create a simple title saying password generator. Okay, so that's password generator, and now we've got the title, everything present. So this looks pretty simple and pretty basic, nothing complex going on in this code. And I'll just say initialize. Okay, and now we will create the objects. So for that I will be creating a comment called as objects. So if I just show you again this program that I've already created. Okay, so we've got all these labels, frames, entry box, button box. So they are known as objects in Tkinter. Okay, so they are called as objects or even widgets, but I like to call them objects. So our first object would be called creating the frame. Okay, so what I will do is I will create a frame. I'll just name it a variable called as frame1. Okay, frame_1. So you could name it whatever you want, and create the function frame by starting a capital frame, and then you will get it in your suggestions. So just type down frame, and now we will connect it to our root that we have already created. Then I'll create a background of black. Okay, I'll create a black background. Then what I will do is I'll also provide a small border width. So border width 5, and let me just run this and check it. Let me run this program and check out what happens. Okay, so nothing is opened. I will explain you why. So what happens in functions is, like, whenever you create a function, you need to call the function, right? Like, say I created a function of add, and now I just create a pass. If I just leave the function this way left open, the function is not going to work. It only, unless it works, I call the function, right? So I have to call it. If I call it, then the function will only work. So the same thing works in these objects. You have to call them. So what you want to do is frame1 dot, the way of calling is using pack. Okay, so pack frame1 dot pack, or you can also use grid. Okay, so I will be using grid in this function. Grid, what it does is it provides these objects in the most suitable position of the program. Okay, so it's got grid, but these frames do not be visible right now. They only get provided into a certain text variable or whatever. They do not be visible on a simple plain screen. Okay, so do not worry about that. Everything is working fine. So what happens is, now you guys may be thinking, how do I know this border width exists in Python in this function? How does this bg work? So what I do is, I'm using a PyCharm editor. So what I do is Control Shift I click on the function name, and I type Control Shift I, and in that then I get every single thing present of the function. Okay, so bg, background bd, bg. So I use bg over here. Then I use border width. Then there are other different keywords also, like cursor, height, highlight background, highlight color, which I do not want to use, but you could tweak with them, and you could change certain things about them. So like for things like highlight background, they will take a variable of a color, so you can put in a color. Then for border width, will take a variable of a integer, background will take a color. So yeah, that's it. You can do some tweaking, but I'm not interested in that. That doesn't mean you guys shouldn't be doing it. You all guys should check it out. That's the way you all will learn how to create these types of functions when you're new to the module. Okay, so now that I've created a frame, I will create my label. Okay, so what I will do is, to just save time, I will just copy paste it. Okay, I'll just copy paste this. Since it's a big line, don't worry, I'll explain it out to you guys. So what I will do is I will create Control V, and let me just zoom out. Okay, so what I'm doing is, instead of again and again creating a variable name and then packing it, I'm just saying label, calling out the function directly, and then I'm providing frame1 into it. This time I'm not providing root, since I want the frame to be present around the label. Okay, so the text will then I'm using a text function, and it's saying welcome to our software, thanks for using us. And then I'm going to pad x and pad y it, and with 10 value, and I'm going to create a relief of raised. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just cancel out these things and show you the difference of my program, and after that the difference that is created. Okay, so let me just run this. So you see this, it's present, and it's present in such a small position. It's too much crossed down to the starting point, and it looks too small. So what I do is I just type pad x, pad y, and now see the fun. The whole program improves. It looks better. Okay, and this you see the risen portion from the column, like the label is getting a bit of height on it. Okay, you'll not be able to see it right now, but you should be able to see it when you're creating it. So that height that is being produced is because of this relief that is raised. So I'm raising my label a bit high. Okay, and then I'm packing it dot grid. So I'm not making a variable and doing the so much complication. I'm just calling the function directly, and on that line only packing it with dot grid with my parentheses. Okay, so that's it. We have created our first label. Now what we will do is we will create another label which will be like a say that how many characters do we want our password to be. Okay, so for that what I will do is I will just name it label underscore 1 is equal to label root comma text is equal to. Okay, let me just copy this down because it's going to be too tedious. How many characters do you want? And I'm just going to copy this whole line, Control C, and okay, I've created a small error over here. Okay, so this label of mine says label with a function says root, and calls it how many characters do you want, and I'm creating a pad x of 1, pad x of y. I'm also initializing a font of Comic Sans, and I'm grading it to the row 1. Okay, so this rows and indexes in this Tkinter module start from 0. So this was present at row 0, the first frame that we created. Then the next label is on row 1. Okay, so we need to specify all that. So you see how this is working properly. So it says how many passwords do you wish your character to be. Characters do you wish, I'm sorry, how many characters do you wish your password to be. Okay, so let me just now close that for the timing. Now we will create the first button that is present. Okay, so let me just copy paste that down button, and copy, Control V, paste. Okay, so this is the button, and it says root with a text of click here, and I do not need to explain you this again and again. I only changed the background to lemon chiffon, that's a certain color, and I've created a command. So what does this command do is the functionality of the button, whatever functionality you want to provide it with, that is used by the word command. So what we need to type command, then we need to create a function name. So I'm creating this function name called numval, and on top I need to define it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just define numval. Okay, and for the timing I do not want to go into the creation of the button function, so I'll just pass it for the timing, and then I'm gridding it to the row 1 and row 2 and column 1. Okay, so let me just run that out. So you see this works like this. So it's saying click here, but it won't just work because we haven't created anything yet. So it says click here. Now what we will do is we'll create now you see the issue over here. Like, let me show you this program that I have created. Okay, the click here is provided towards this portion. Okay, it's a bit distanced out from this word, and I'll show you my program that I have created here, that I've been creating. See, the click here is so close to this. So what we will do is we'll create a label which is an invisible variable which will separate this button a bit rightward. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just copy down that label. What we will do is we'll just create a new variable here saying that text out your variable. Okay, and now let me save this, okay, and run it. Okay, so this is the second part of a button thing, that is saying your password generated is this, and now nothing is come yet because we haven't created anything. Okay, so now we'll put down the second button. Okay, let me copy this and let me paste this. Okay, so again this is a button with a text of hide, relief of raised, border with 5, and lemon chiffon. Again I'm creating a same command, and this command is hide. Okay, but I do not have any hide present over here. So what I will do is I will just define it as hide, and for the timing we will just pass it. Okay, and let me just run this again. Okay, so we have got this hide button, we have got this clear. So this hide button is basically for hiding a password that is being presented for security purposes. Now we'll create our entry widgets. Okay, so what we will do is I'll just copy this down. Okay, and let me type it between the button and the main loop. Okay, so this is the entry, and it's taking a root and a text variable. So what a text variable is, whatever we type in a program, like let me show you this program. Whatever we type in our entry, this entry, now say we are typing this thing, and as soon as we click here, right, this whatever is typed gets saved in a variable, and that variable is simply called as text variable. Okay, so that variable can be a string variable or it can be an integer variable. So right now we'll create a string variable. Okay, so what I will say is name val is equal to string var. Okay, so that will get saved into it, string var, and then now I will say event1 dot grid. Okay, and let me just check if I've gridded. Yeah, I've gridded with a row 1 and column 1. So let me just save that down also. Control V, Shift F10. Okay, I'm sorry, I ran the wrong program. Okay, so now everything works perfectly since we have gridded them to the certain row, that now there's a bit of distance which looks good. So how many characters do you wish your password to be? Say we put 7, and then we click here, but nothing works since we haven't created the second entry box. So what I'll do is I'll simply just copy paste this portion also. Okay, copy and paste it, and now we'll again create the name vals, the new variable that is present in this. Name vals is equal to string variable. I don't think so we'll be using this variable, so you do not need to put in this text variable of name vals, but just for the timing we'll just provide it. Okay, and thank you for using your software. So I'll just type in 7, and then our password isn't getting generated because we haven't created the functionality of these buttons. Okay, so that is going to be the main part of this program, and after that we're going to have a project ready with us. So for now we learned how to create a simple window by which has a label, it's got a frame with us, entry box, and certain buttons. Okay, and we have to also implement this program that we created in the previous video into our main project. So that's going to be in the part 3 of this project tutorial. So please stay tuned for that video, and if you like this video, do drop a like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Stay safe, and I'll be coming back with the next part.